Alex Eala won in straight sets. Yet she still came within one game of watching the entire match fall apart. The final score looked controlled, 6-2, 7-6. But that score hid the most dangerous moment of the night. For one set, Eala completely controlled Leylah Fernandez. The defending Washington champion struggled to find her timing. Her forehand broke down. Her serve created almost no easy points. Then everything changed. Fernandez won 5 games in a row. Suddenly, Eala was behind 1-5 in the second set. Fernandez was stepping inside the baseline. She was taking the ball earlier. She was controlling the first strike. One solid service game could send the match into a deciding set. That third set never came. Eala recovered every game she had lost. She pulled the score back to 5-all. She forced a tiebreak. Then she won 7 of 8 points. The final 2 points ended with forehand winners. Just like that, the defending champion was gone. Only weeks earlier, Eala had defeated another defending champion. She had walked onto center court at Wimbledon against Iga Swiatek and beaten her in straight sets. 2 tournaments. 2 defending champions. 2 straight set victories. So what is happening? Is Eala simply meeting great players on difficult days? Or has she developed something that becomes especially dangerous when the player across the net is carrying the pressure of expectation? The answer begins 3 months earlier. It begins in Stuttgart, when Fernandez made Eala look nowhere near ready. Part 1. The defeat that exposed the problem. In Stuttgart, Fernandez defeated Eala 6-1, 6-4. It was not a match filled with comforting excuses. Fernandez controlled the first 2 shots of the rallies. She took the ball early. She redirected pace before Eala could establish her position. Eala fought. She extended points. She showed flashes of the talent that had already attracted attention. But Fernandez looked more certain. She reached the next ball earlier. She remained calm when rallies became unpredictable. She made faster decisions when the important points arrived. Fernandez was not just another opponent. She had reached a US Open final. She had built her reputation by absorbing power and sending it back with greater accuracy. She was also left-handed, just like Eala. The matchup looked like a mirror. But Stuttgart showed 2 players at different stages. Fernandez understood how to control uncertainty. Eala was still learning how to survive it. The defeat revealed what happened when Eala allowed an opponent to dominate the beginning of each rally. It showed how quickly she could be pushed behind the baseline. It showed that hesitation would be punished. That made their Washington meeting more important than a normal second-round match. Eala was not only facing the 7th seed, she was facing the defending champion. She was facing the player who had exposed the distance between them only 3 months earlier. But the player who arrived in Washington was different. The talent was still there. The movement was still there. What had changed was her response when control disappeared. Part 2. The night belief became proof. Before Wimbledon, Eala had already defeated highly ranked opponents. She was dangerous. But she still needed proof that her best tennis could survive on the largest stage. Before Wimbledon in 2026, Eala had won only one main draw match at a Grand Slam. Then she stepped onto center court against Iga Swiatek. Swiatek was the defending Wimbledon champion and the number 3 seed. She had the experience. She had the power. She had the reputation. She also had the kind of name that can make a young player focus on the occasion instead of the next ball. The opening set lasted 84 minutes. Eala faced 2 set points in the tiebreak. One rushed forehand could have changed the match. One moment of hesitation could have handed control to the defending champion. Eala stayed calm. She saved both set points. She won the tiebreak 11 points to 9. Then she returned to the baseline and controlled the second set. 7-6, 6-2. Eala had not escaped with one lucky swing. She had survived the pressure, adjusted to it, and then taken control. That victory changed how people viewed her. Before Wimbledon, Eala looked dangerous. After Wimbledon, she looked proven. But one question remained. Was the victory over Swiatek a perfect moment on the perfect surface? Grass can shorten points. Pressure can produce mistakes. Even great champions can have difficult days. Washington offered another test. A different surface. A different opponent. A different kind of pressure. And Fernandez already knew exactly how to beat her. Part 3. The match that suddenly changed. For one set, Eala made the defending Washington champion look ordinary. Fernandez committed 14 unforced errors in only 8 games. Her forehand repeatedly landed short, found the net, or flew beyond the baseline. Her serve did not give her enough free points. Whenever the rally reached a neutral position, Eala looked comfortable. Eala broke early. Then she broke again. She kept the ball deep through the middle when no clear angle was available. She changed direction only when Fernandez gave her space. She refused to turn a controlled match into a reckless hitting contest. The opening set ended 6-2. It looked simple. It was not. Fernandez had not been overwhelmed by one unstoppable weapon. She had been losing because she could not settle into the match. That meant everything could change if she found one strong service game, one clean return, or one rally that restored her confidence. That moment arrived early in the second set. Fernandez entered a long service game that reached deuce 6 times. Eala kept applying pressure. Fernandez eventually struck a backhand winner and held serve. It was only one game. But her body language changed. She moved more quickly between points. She stepped closer to the baseline. Her forehand began landing deeper, her returns arrived earlier. The comfortable rallies disappeared. Fernandez broke serve. Then she held. Then she broke again. She stopped waiting for errors and began attacking every short ball. Eala was pushed several feet behind the baseline. The sound inside the stadium changed. Earlier, the crowd reacted after Fernandez missed. Now the crowd reacted as she moved forward. 1 game became 2. 2 became 3. Then 4. Then 5. Fernandez had won 5 consecutive games. She led 5-1. Only minutes earlier, Eala had looked one set away from eliminating another defending champion. Now she was one service game away from a deciding set. The real danger was larger than the score. Eala was arriving late to her forehand. Her shots were landing shorter. Fernandez was controlling the exchange before Eala could reset. This is where many young players make the situation worse. They feel the match escaping. They see the opponent growing in confidence. So they try to repair everything with one perfect shot. They swing harder. They aim closer to the lines. They take risks that the moment does not require. At 1-5, the scoreboard seemed to demand something dramatic from Eala. The memory of Stuttgart was also returning. Fernandez was taking the ball early again. Eala was retreating again. The defending champion looked certain again. Was Washington about to end for the same reasons Stuttgart had ended? The danger increased at 15-30 on the Eala serve. Fernandez was 2 points away from another opportunity to close the set. Everything appeared to favor her. The score. The momentum. The experience. The recent history between them. Eala had already watched 5 games disappear. Now she needed a solution before the match disappeared with them. Part 4. Less desperation, more control. At 1-5, Eala did not need to become more aggressive. She needed to become less desperate. The obvious response was to attack harder. Hit closer to the lines. Take the ball earlier. Search for one spectacular winner that could change the energy. That approach might have ended the set even faster. Instead, Eala simplified the problem. At 15-30, she focused on the next ball. Not the comeback. Not the tiebreak. Not the possibility of a third set. Only the next ball. She added height over the net. She gave herself more margin. She stopped searching for immediate control. She began asking Fernandez to earn every point again. The change did not look dramatic. There was no desperate charge toward the net. There was no impossible winner from several feet behind the baseline. There was only patience. Eala held serve. The score was still 2-5. But the pressure had started to change direction. At 1-5, Eala had almost nothing left to protect. Fernandez had rebuilt the match and now had the set directly in front of her. She had to finish it. Eala made that task uncomfortable. She returned deep. She avoided giving Fernandez an easy first strike. She extended rallies by one shot, then another. Fernandez began losing depth. One forehand went long. Another found the net. Eala recovered one break. 3-5. The situation was still dangerous. But it was no longer hopeless. Eala held again. 4-5. The crowd could feel another momentum shift. Fernandez had changed the match with aggression. Eala was changing it through resistance. She was not overpowering the defending champion. She was making every decision more difficult. Should Fernandez attack immediately? Should she wait for a shorter ball? Should she move toward the net? Every extra question created another opening for doubt. That was the real turning point. Eala did not suddenly reach a perfect level. She simply refused to let her lower level become permanent. Great players do not avoid every difficult stretch. The important skill is recognizing what can still be saved while the match is moving in the wrong direction. Eala found the smallest available solution. More margin. More depth. One extra ball. Then she waited. At 5-4, Fernandez served for the set. One solid service game would force a deciding set. But the pressure was no longer only on Eala. Fernandez had already seen 3 games disappear. Eala was reading the rallies better. The crowd was beginning to sense that the finish line was moving farther away. Then came the rally that revealed the new balance of the match. Fernandez moved forward and appeared ready to finish at the net. For one moment, she hesitated. Eala kept the ball alive. She defended one more shot. She recovered her position. Then she turned defense into attack and finished with a forehand winner. 5-all. The comeback was complete. The match was not. Fernandez still had time to recover. The set eventually reached a tiebreak, but the emotional pressure had reversed. Fernandez entered the tiebreak carrying the memory of a 5-1 lead. Eala entered it carrying proof that the lead had not been enough. The first points passed quickly. Eala moved ahead. Fernandez began pressing. The errors returned. But Eala was not simply waiting for mistakes. She moved Fernandez from side to side. She redirected the ball. She created space instead of trying to force it. Then she ended the final 2 points with forehand winners. 7-1. Match over. Eala had lost 5 straight games. Then she recovered all 5. She had been 1 game away from a third set. Fernandez never earned a set point. That was not perfection. It was recovery at extraordinary speed. Part 5. The weapon hidden inside the comeback. The victory becomes more significant when it is placed beside Wimbledon and the opening round in Washington against Qinwen. Swiatek, Fernandez, and Zheng presented 3 different problems. Swiatek brought the pressure of center court. Fernandez brought speed, experience, and the memory of Stuttgart. Zheng brought one of the most dangerous serves in the draw. Different opponents, different surfaces, different forms of pressure. Eala answered each challenge with the same hidden weapon. Solution: speed. Against Swiatek, Eala had to survive 2 set points during an 84-minute opening set. She protected her margins. She stayed inside the rally. She attacked only when the opportunity appeared. Against Fernandez, she had to stop a collapse that was already happening. She reduced the risk. She restored depth. She made the defending champion finish points instead of giving them away. Against Zheng, the original plan also stopped working. Zheng struck 14 aces. She won the opening set. She moved ahead by a break in the second. Eala did not panic. She stayed close enough to search for another path. She began attacking the next ball after the serve. She broke Zheng 6 times. She won the second set 6-4. Then she dominated the final set, 6-1. That is the pattern. The most important weapon in the Eala game is not raw power. It is not one spectacular forehand. It is not a serve that guarantees easy games. It is her ability to understand what the match requires next. When an opponent attacks earlier, Eala adds depth and margin. When the rallies become too fast, she neutralizes through the middle. When uncertainty appears across the net, she changes direction and takes control. She does not need to play the same style for 2 hours. She needs to recognize when the match has changed before the damage becomes permanent. That is why the champion killer label does not tell the full story. It can make Eala sound like a player who suddenly becomes superhuman against famous names. The truth is more interesting. She forces champions to feel the pressure of finishing. Swiatek reached 2 set points. Fernandez reached a 5-1 lead. Zheng held a set and a break advantage behind 14 aces. Each player reached a position that should have been enough. Eala made each player prove it. She made Fernandez play another forehand. She made Swiatek play another pressure point. She made Zheng protect another service game. Some mistakes came from poor execution. Others came because Eala kept demanding one more difficult decision. The champions began thinking about the finish line. Eala continued thinking about the next ball. That difference changed the matches. Part 6. From surprise to expectation. One victory over a defending champion can become the greatest night of a young career. A second victory only weeks later changes the meaning of the first. Alex Eala is no longer asking the tennis world to notice her. The tennis world is being forced to adjust to her. One upset can be explained away. A second can still be called a surprise. But when the same mental strength appears against different champions on different surfaces, surprise begins turning into expectation. That is the next challenge. Eala has proven that she can defeat champions. Now, she must prove that she can become one. That requires more than one great night. It requires recovering between matches. It requires defeating opponents who now study every pattern in her game. It requires winning when the crowd expects her to win, not only when nobody believes she can. It requires turning deep runs into trophies. That journey may be harder than any single upset. But Eala has already shown the skill that makes the next step possible. She adapts. She survives. She learns before the match can leave her behind. For the Philippines, the dream is also changing. The question is no longer whether a Filipino player can stand on the largest courts. Eala has already done that. The question is how far she can go now that she belongs there. After 2 defending champions in 2 consecutive tournaments, calling every victory an upset begins to feel incomplete. Maybe the tennis world is no longer watching a champion killer. Maybe it is watching a future champion learn how to close the distance. The next answer will not come from what Eala has already done. It will come from the next champion standing across the net.